You were never called to stay small just to keep others comfortable. You weren't created to dim your light so someone else doesn't feel insecure in your glow. There comes a time in every person's life when growth begins to expose what's real and what's not. And the truth is, not everyone around you is clapping for your progress. Some are clapping for the old version of you, the one who doubted, the one who stayed quiet, the one who played it safe. But the moment you start setting boundaries, choosing peace over chaos, and elevating your mindset, suddenly questions start flying. Why are you acting different? Who do you think you are? Why are you so quiet, man? But friend, let me tell you something. Sometimes the questions they ask are the very proof you need that they were never real to begin with. When God begins to elevate you, not everyone will come with you, and that's okay, because not every connection is covenant. Some are seasonal, some were lessons, and some were just there to distract you from your destiny. But you're stepping into a new season now, a season of discernment, of power, of clarity. And today we're going to talk about the signs, the questions that reveal when someone was never real from the start. Why are you so quiet now? They ask with a smirk, a raised brow, or a hint of accusation. But what they don't understand is that your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You've grown, you've changed. You've been through things that taught you the value of peace, of stillness, of guarding your spirit. You're not quiet because you've run out of things to say. You're quiet because not everything or everyone deserves a response. And there was a time when you would have explained yourself, defended your choices, justified your healing, but not anymore. See, there's a version of you that used to speak just to be heard. You would engage in every battle, respond to every insult, and try to fix every broken thing. You thought if you just said the right words, people would understand your heart. But now you've come to realize that some people don't want to understand you. They want to disrupt you. They ask, why are you so quiet now? Not because they care, but because they missed the old version of you. The one who was loud in pain, the one who was messy with emotion, the one who didn't know how to walk away without explanation. But healing changes your voice. Healing makes you quieter. Not because you're hiding, but because you've learned that real strength doesn't need to shout. Real power moves in silence. When you start healing, growing, evolving, you begin to conserve your energy. You stop giving yourself away to people who never deserved access to your soul in the first place. You begin to realize that every response is an investment, and some people are just not worth it. There are people who thrived off your chaos. They liked you when you were broken because it made them feel whole. They liked you when you were noisy with pain because your mess distracted them from their own. They missed that version of you, and your silence scares them. Not because it's rude, but because it's powerful. Because now they can't manipulate your emotions. They can't bait you into arguments. They can't feed off your energy. You've starved their control, and they feel it. So they ask, why are you so quiet now? As if something is wrong. But what they really mean is, why can't I reach you like I used to? Why doesn't my drama pull you in anymore? Why aren't you broken like before? What they don't understand is that silence is your healing language now. It's the language of someone who's done the inner work, someone who's made peace their priority, someone who's realized that drama is a thief that robs joy, energy, and purpose. You've learned to stop announcing every move. You don't need validation anymore. You're not looking for applause. You're walking in purpose. There's no need to broadcast every healing moment when the results will speak for themselves. Silence is no longer uncomfortable for you. It's your sanctuary. It's where you recharge. It's where God speaks. It's where you hear your own soul again. People who love you, who truly know you, they won't be offended by your silence. They'll respect it. They'll understand that silence isn't distance. It's death. It's the evidence that you've stopped surviving and started living. But the fake one, the ones who only came close when your life was chaotic, they'll question it. They'll poke at it. They'll try to drag you back into the noise because that's the only place they ever knew you. And here's the truth. Your silence will reveal their intentions faster than your words ever could. The moment you stop over-explaining, stop arguing, stop defending, that's when the masks fall off. That's when you see who was real and who was there for the performance. Silence is the end of the act, and fake people can't stand when the show is over. So let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them ask, why are you so quiet now? Let them drown in the confusion your peace creates. Because the real ones will never need noise to feel your presence. They'll recognize your stillness as strength. They'll know that your quiet is not distance, it's discipline. And most of all, they'll know that silence is the sound of someone who finally knows their worth. You're not who you used to be, and that's the point. You've stopped reacting because you've started healing. You've stopped entertaining foolishness because your peace is too expensive to trade for chaos. You've stopped speaking to prove yourself because you now understand you were never required to explain your evolution to those who never respected your existence. So the next time they ask, why are you so quiet now? Smile. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just keep walking in the silence that sets you free. Because real transformation doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real. Who do you think you are? It's a question laced with intimidation, soaked in insecurity, and thrown like a dart at anyone bold enough to rise above the limitations others tried to place on them. It's not really a question, it's an accusation. It's not curiosity, it's resistance. It's what people ask when your confidence threatens their comfort zone, when your growth confronts their stagnation, when your rising exposes how long they've stayed on the ground. You see, people are okay with you as long as you're broken, as long as you stay small, as long as you don't dare to outgrow the version of yourself that they could control, understand, or feel superior to. But the moment you start walking different, talking different, living with purpose, setting boundaries, aiming higher, they get uncomfortable. That question comes out of their mouth, not because you're wrong, but because you're finally right with yourself. They ask, who do you think you are? As if you're out of line when the truth is you're finally in alignment. You used to doubt yourself. You used to shrink so others could feel tall. You used to water yourself down to be digestible, but not anymore. You've been through too much, healed from too much, lost too much, prayed through too much to go back now. You don't think you're better than anyone else. But you do know you're better than you used to be. You're not arrogant. You're aware. You're aware of your value, your calling, your gifts, your worth. And that awareness to someone who lives in insecurity feels like an insult. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. What they don't know is that you didn't wake up one day full of confidence. You didn't snap your fingers and become bold. You were built through the fire. You found your voice in the silence. You discovered your strength in the storm. Every tear you cried watered the roots of the person you're becoming. And now, just because you carry yourself with grace, with vision, with faith, they call it pride. They want the old you because the healed you is a mirror they can't look into without facing their own brokenness. So when they ask, who do you think you are? Here's the truth. You are chosen. You are redeemed. You are healed. You are purposed. You are becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. You're no longer seeking approval from people who never even understood your potential. You're no longer waiting for permission to take up space. You're walking in what was already yours, the power, the peace, the promise. People who are intimidated by your growth will try to label your progress as pride. They'll twist your healing into selfishness. They'll take your confidence and call it conceit. But don't let the noise of their doubt silence the sound of your destiny. They didn't cry the tears you cried. They didn't battle the demons you've overcome. They weren't there when you had nothing but faith and breath. So no, they don't get to question your transformation. They don't get to dictate your direction. You're not asking, who do I think I am anymore? Now you know you're someone who refuses to play small so others can feel tall. Someone who refuses to shrink back just to be liked. Someone who walks into rooms knowing they belong, not because of ego, but because of divine design. And that kind of power, that kind of identity, that kind of quiet confidence, it shakes things. It rattles cages. It makes the insecure scramble. And that's why the question comes. But you don't owe them an answer. You don't have to explain your growth, your light, your favor. Let your results speak. Let your peace speak. Let your consistency speak. Because the people who truly see you, the ones who really know your heart, they'll never ask, who do you think you are? They'll say, I see who you're becoming, and I'm proud of you. You're not here to fit in. You're here to fulfill purpose. You're not here to meet expectations. You're here to exceed limitations. So keep walking, even when the question echoes behind you. Keep rising, even when the doubters try to pull you down. Because the only people who will ever question your elevation are the ones who are too afraid to rise themselves. So when they whisper, when they roll their eyes, when they throw that question at you like an insult, who do you think you are? Just smile. You don't need to answer with words. Your life is your answer. Your peace is your proof. Your progress is your permission. You are becoming everything they never saw coming, and that's exactly how it should be. Why are you changing all of a sudden a question that usually comes from people who were never prepared for your healing? Sounds innocent, maybe even concern, but underneath it often lies confusion, control, or even quiet resentment. They don't ask because they're truly curious. They ask because your evolution is inconvenient. They got used to the version of you that tolerated disrespect, stayed silent in chaos, settled for less, and doubted their own worth. But now that version is gone, and they don't know what to do with the new you. The truth is, you're not changing all of a sudden. You're just finally showing the world the growth that's been happening inside you for a long time. They didn't see the nights you cried, the mornings you didn't want to get out of bed, the prayers you whispered through clenched teeth, the strength it took to hold yourself together when everything around you was falling apart. They didn't see the internal war you fought just to get to this point of peace. And now that you're rising, healing, choosing better, suddenly they're uncomfortable. People get comfortable with your wounds. As long as you stayed the same, they knew how to manipulate you, guilt you, or stay ahead of you. But healing is disruptive. Growth is confrontational. It challenges not only who you were, but who they still are. You choosing to change reminds them of everything they've refused to face in themselves. You leveling up highlights how long they've stayed on the ground. It's not that you're becoming arrogant, it's that you're becoming unavailable to dysfunction. You're no longer tolerating chaos in the name of loyalty. Why are you changing all of a sudden? Because I finally love myself enough to stop playing small. Because I got tired of being emotionally exhausted just to keep other people comfortable. Because I started paying attention to how I felt around certain people, and I didn't like the version of me that kept showing up. Because I realized that staying the same just to please others was slowly killing the best parts of me. Because repeating old patterns only leads to familiar pain. And I refused to stay stuck in cycles I prayed to be free from. You changing doesn't make you fake. It makes you faithful to your healing, your purpose, your calling. There is nothing noble about staying broken just so others can feel whole. There is nothing loyal about staying in rooms where you are constantly shrinking. Change is not betrayal, it's breakthrough. And the ones who truly love you, truly want the best for you, they will celebrate your transformation. They won't guilt you for choosing peace. They won't shame you for setting boundaries. They won't question your healing. They'll honor it. You have every right to evolve. Every right to wake up one day and decide, I'm not going to keep giving energy to what drains me. You are allowed to grow into someone your past doesn't recognize. You are allowed to unlearn what you were taught, to release what you were carrying, to break free from what once held you captive. You are allowed to reinvent yourself again and again until the reflection in the mirror finally feels like truth. You changing isn't the problem. It's their unwillingness to grow with you. That's the issue. If your healing offends them, that's not your burden to carry. If your boundaries make them uncomfortable, that's their invitation to self-reflect, not your cue to apologize. You've spent enough time explaining yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. Now is the season to move in silence, to grow without guilt, to evolve without needing permission. Don't let their questions plant doubt in your spirit. Don't let their confusion slow your momentum. Not everyone was meant to walk with you into this new chapter. Some people were only assigned to the version of you that no longer exists. And when God starts shifting your identity, when he starts pruning your circle, when he begins to reposition you, it will look like sudden change to outsiders. But to you, it's the natural result of obedience, of faith, of doing the inner work when nobody else was watching. So yes, you're changing. And no, it's not sudden. It's overdue. It's the fruit of your tears, your discipline, your surrender. You're not who you were last year. You're not even who you were last month, because you're serious about your healing now, serious about your peace, serious about your purpose. And when you finally get serious, the change is noticeable. It's undeniable. It's unshakable. Let them ask. Let them wonder. Let them wrestle with the version of you they no longer understand. You don't owe them an explanation for a transformation they never supported. The ones who are meant for you will recognize the beauty in your growth. They'll see the strength in your silence. They'll feel the power in your peace. And they won't ask, why are you changing all of a sudden? They'll say, I'm so glad you did. Why are you acting brand new? They say it with a smirk, with sarcasm, sometimes even with bitterness masked as humor. But don't let the tone fool you. That question carries a heavy truth. What they really mean is, why aren't you playing small anymore? It's not about you acting different. It's about you becoming someone they never expected you to be. Someone healed, someone confident, someone with boundaries, someone no longer tolerating the things they used to get away with. The phrase acting brand new is often thrown around when people see you doing what they never thought you had the strength to do. Walk away from dysfunction, upgrade your standards, speak up for yourself, or finally choose peace over performance. Love the version of you that was broken, available on demand, too forgiving, too afraid to leave. But the new version of you, the healed, awakened, spiritually aligned, focused you, that version is threatened. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because now you're untouchable in the ways you used to be vulnerable. You're not acting brand new. You are brand new. There was a time when you would have let the same disrespect slide. You would have laughed at the same jokes that mocked your spirit. You would have said yes to things that broke your peace. You would have let people back in just because you didn't want to seem rude. But not anymore. Growth changed your appetite. Healing shifted your standard. When you finally start to honor yourself the way you always should have, people who were benefiting from your self-neglect are going to notice. They'll say you switched up, and you did. Switch from survival mode to purpose mode. Switch from being available to everyone to being loyal to yourself. You stopped waiting on others to choose you and started choosing yourself. That's not fake. That's not arrogant. That's divine restoration. That's the result of finally realizing that not everyone is meant to have access to your energy, your kindness, your time, or your soul. There are people who loved the version of you that doubted your own worth, that you was easier to manipulate, easier to guilt trip, easier to use. They liked that version because that you needed them. Then this new version, this version is clear. This version doesn't chase closure, doesn't beg for validation, doesn't trade peace for company. Because they can't reach you in the ways they used to, the only explanation they can come up with is you're acting brand new. What they don't realize is that becoming brand new isn't something that happened overnight. It took late night prayers, deep inner battles, emotional purging, heartbreaks that taught you lessons, moments of silence where you learned to hear your own soul again. This new you is a product of intentional healing, not impulsive change. You didn't wake up one morning and decide to act differently for attention. You fought through darkness to finally see the light. People often say you've changed like it's a crime. But staying the same just to please people who never respected your growth, that's the real tragedy. You were not put on this earth to live on repeat. You were not called to be stuck in the version of yourself that was easy for everyone else to digest. You were called to evolve, to shed skins, to outgrow labels, to rise again and again until you become everything God created you to be. So let them say what they want. Let them throw their passive-aggressive remarks. Let them cling to their outdated image of who you used to be. That's not your responsibility. Your job is to protect your peace, nurture your purpose, and walk boldly in your new identity. The people who matter won't accuse you of being brand new. They'll celebrate the courage it took to finally become who you were always meant to be. You're not acting brand new because you're fake. You're acting brand new because you're free from cycles, free from guilt, free from needing to be liked by people who are never invested in your healing. And that kind of freedom is disruptive. It changes the dynamics of every relationship in your life. Some will adjust and grow with you. Others will resist and try to drag you back into the version of yourself that served them. That's when you'll hear it, you're acting brand new. But don't shrink. Don't backtrack. Don't try to convince them that you're still the same. You're not, and you shouldn't be. You've worked too hard to go back to who you had to be just to survive. This new you is rooted, grounded, secure. This new you knows how to say no without guilt, how to walk away without explanation, how to honor your energy without apology. So yes, you're acting brand new, and thank God for that. Because the old you was tired. The old you was drowning in people pleasing. The old you was silently suffering for the sake of appearances. But the new you is walking in purpose. The new you is surrounded by peace. The new you is unapologetically authentic. And if that bothers them, that's a sign they were never really for you. Because people who are truly for you don't fear your transformation. They fuel it. What makes you think you're better than us? That question doesn't come from people who truly know your heart. It comes from those who feel threatened by your healing, your confidence, your boundaries. It's a defensive question, not a curious one. It's not about you thinking you're better. It's about them realizing you've changed, and they haven't. When you rise, not everyone will clap. When you grow, not everyone will cheer. Some will question your elevation because your progress reminds them of their own stagnation. You didn't ask to be better than anyone. You just decided to be better than who you used to be. That's it. You got tired of being stuck in cycles, tired of accepting less, tired of giving too much and receiving too little. You stopped waiting for people to choose you and started choosing yourself. You stopped seeking validation and started living in alignment. But the moment you did, the moment you stopped entertaining the dysfunction and began protecting your peace, someone couldn't take it. They couldn't understand. So instead of asking how they could grow too, they questioned your motive. What makes you think you're better than us? It's not that you think you're better. It's that you finally stopped pretending to be less. You stopped laughing at jokes that disrespected your spirit. You stopped showing up in places where you weren't honored. You stopped engaging in conversations that drained your soul. And to those still stuck in the old ways, that looks like arrogance. That looks like pride. But really it's maturity. It's self-respect. It's what happens when someone begins to value their energy, their time, and their heart. You've been through things they didn't see. You've healed from wounds they didn't cause. But would have happily watched you bleed from. They don't know the nights you cried, the moments you broke, the times you wanted to give up, but didn't. And now that you're smiling more, talking less, glowing differently, they assume you think you're better. But what they don't understand is you didn't elevate to look down on anyone. You elevated to finally rise above the things that were breaking you. Your growth wasn't a competition. It was survival. They see your peace and think it's pretentious. They see your boundaries and think it's judgment. They see your clarity and think it's ego. But peace, boundaries, and clarity are not weapons. They're tools of healing. You don't owe anyone the old version of you just to make them feel comfortable. You don't have to shrink your spirit to fit into spaces that never saw your value to begin with. Sometimes people ask, what makes you think you're better than us? Because deep down, they never expected you to leave the level you all started on. They thought you'd always stay the same. Available, unsure, insecure, easy to manipulate. But the moment you became unavailable to the chaos, the gossip, the small talk that used to define the connection, they took it personally. And that's not on you. Growth always exposes who's real and who's convenient. The real ones will say, I see your change and I'm inspired. The fake ones will say, you've changed and I don't like it, because your healing confronts their comfort. Your light makes their darkness too obvious, and instead of doing the work, they project, they accuse, they try to guilt you back into a role that no longer fits. But you didn't come this far to go back. You didn't survive what you did to still care about fitting in with people who never celebrated your becoming. You don't think you're better. You just know you're no longer broken. And for some, that's the real issue. Because as long as you were broken, they felt needed. As long as you were struggling, they felt superior. But now that you're whole, your presence is a mirror, and they can't look without seeing what they've avoided in themselves. Let them ask. Let them assume. You don't need to defend a decision that brought you peace. You don't need to explain a transformation they were never interested in understanding. You didn't heal to prove a point. You healed to protect your future. And that future doesn't include guilt-tripping relationships, small-minded circles, or insecure conversations. You're not better than them, but you are better than the old you. And that's enough. If they choose to be offended by your evolution, let them. Their perception is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to keep showing up for yourself, to keep growing, to keep choosing the version of you that reflects your true worth. The ones who matter won't be threatened by your light. They'll be encouraged by it. They won't question your glow. They'll honor the story behind it. So keep shining, keep healing, keep walking boldly into who you were created to be. When the question comes again, what makes you think you're better than us? Smile. Because you finally know the truth. You were never trying to be better than anyone. You were just finally brave enough to become better than who you used to. So if they say, why are you so quiet now? If they ask, who do you think you are? Smile and keep walking. If they question, why are you changing all of a sudden? Understand they were never paying attention to your pain in the first place. If they throw, why are you acting brand new? Know that healing should make you unrecognizable to people who only knew you when you were broken. And if they fire, what makes you think you're better than us? Remind yourself you're not trying to be better than them. You're becoming better than who you used to be. Your growth will confuse people who expected you to stay wounded. Your boundaries will offend those who once benefited from your lack of them. Your peace will irritate those who only knew how to function in chaos. But none of that is your problem. You didn't change to impress them. You changed to save yourself. You didn't elevate to prove anything. You elevated because staying low was slowly killing you. You didn't become brand new overnight. You rebuilt yourself, brick by brick, lesson by lesson, prayer by prayer. Don't explain your evolution to people who never clapped for your survival. Don't apologize for becoming the healed, whole, awakened version of yourself. You owe no one the old you. So walk boldly, speak softly, grow silently, and shine unapologetically. Because when they ask all those questions with doubt in their voice, it's not a sign that you're fake. It's a sign that you're finally real.